Hello, everybody. This is Andrea Stenberg. Welcome to another episode of the Baby Boomer Entrepreneur TV slash podcast. Today, I have Lisa Mallis, who is a time strategy visionary. She combines her experience in secondary education and direct sales with her love of schedules, systems, and all things time management to create system savvy consulting. I was really excited to have Lisa on because schedules and systems is something that I love but struggle with. So I was happy to have her on. She says she believes every person deserves the opportunity to live the life of their dreams, feeling control and bringing balance to their lives. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for the kind intro. I'm so excited to be here with you today, Andrea.
Okay, well, I'm excited too. So let's just dive right in. So what attracted you to this idea of helping people with systems and time management?
Excellent question. I come from a background in high school education and also in the direct sales industry. And after doing both of those, so that equated to a very long work week for a number of years, I started to feel tired. I was burnt out, I was worn out, and I knew that I needed to make a change, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And so I pursued a couple options, but all the way through that, friends kept saying to me, can you help me organize this? Can you help me figure out this? And after hearing it from friends and friends of friends, they would say, you should do this for a business. And I thought, well, why would I do that? In my brain, because it was a skill that I had, everybody could. I just assumed that everyone could lay out a schedule and follow it, and that everyone was able to pick their top priorities and slot those into their day and follow those types of just that kind of structure and that kind of framework. And so after hearing it, I thought, maybe this is something I should explore. And so I recently listened to a podcast where they said, do what's easy for you. Do what's easy, do what you love. And this is what I love. I know everyone's brain does not work the way mine does. And so I help them create structure so that they can do the most important thing every single day.
When you mentioned about that podcast, I was just thinking that isn't that always the way that the things that come naturally to us, we kind of discount because it's so easy, but that's kind of our strength and the thing that other people need the most from us.
Right, exactly. I worked with a coach once who said, claim your brilliance. That's what you're good at, and claim it and go out and share it.
Okay, so you talked about the importance of picking your top priorities and doing those each day. And I know I don't always do that. So what for entrepreneurs or people who have so many balls in the air and we're juggling so many priorities, how do you pick what's the most important thing that you need to do today?
One of the strategies or techniques that I've realized are about my clients, everyone is different. And what works for me doesn't necessarily work for them. And so it's important to fit a system around the person versus a person into a system. That being said, I have found that people strive and thrive on structure. So if we can create some sort of structure or framework, and it is not the same for everyone, it becomes easier. So the idea of you wake up in the morning, you have a full day scheduled, and then you get to the end of your day and you realize you were busy all day but haven't gotten any closer to your goals. Putting some sort of framework around that is helpful. So what I work with clients on is awe. AWE, awareness, work, and evaluation. So when it comes to how do you prioritize, how do you pick your number one thing, the first part, and it will seem kind of silly probably, but the very first part is awareness. What's important to you? What are your goals? What do you want out of your life? And every time I do a workshop on this, people look at me like, I don't know the last time I sat and thought about it. Like, I'll ask, how many of you have accomplished the number one most important thing today? And I'll get a couple hands. What about yesterday? And I'll get a couple hands. And then I'll say, how many of you even know what that is? And I'll get nobody. And so people, they're like, well, we don't have time to think. We've got so much going on. So the long answer to your very short question, Andrea, was it starts with awareness, figuring out what your big goal is, and then determining what fits in with that goal. What's the task that's going to fit in with that goal? And that's the A stage of awe.
Now, do you find that entrepreneurs are sometimes resistant to taking the time to write down these goals or to figure out what they are? They just kind of want to dive in and start doing things?
Yeah, sometimes I find it's resistance, and sometimes I find it's the hamster wheel. You're going so fast every single day that if you feel that if you can slow down and take a breath, it would be helpful, but when in the world will you ever find time to slow down and take a breath? Because there's so much going on. So sometimes it's resistance, but I have found it's a feeling of, I'm going as fast as I possibly can. I don't have time to write down my goals or think through a long thought process. I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
Right, and that's where you come in, because you can help people stop being on that treadmill so that they actually have time to get the things done. I mean, that's really why people hire you, right?
Absolutely. I'm a huge believer, and clients have proven this time and time again, that most of the time they are spending time on things that just aren't as important as they think they are. But it takes someone from the outside to shine that light on what's going on in their day. Yesterday, a client listed out everything he did for Monday. And I said, well, tell me, what did you figure out about this list? And he starts telling me some stuff. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden he says, what I realized is that I spend a lot of time doing stuff that really doesn't have a ton of value. And I said, oh, yay, my work is done. We figured it out.
Well, I know one time I'm a big believer of to-do lists, and I like to use, I use file cards to write things down. So, and one time I had my to-do list, and I was getting frustrated because I could never get everything done every day. And so one day I sat down, I wrote down a time value, and I probably wildly underestimated how much time it was going to take me. And my one day's to-do list had 27 hours. So even if I didn't need sleep, it was impossible for me to get it done. So, so what do you say to somebody who's got a to-do list of 27 hours, and you got 24 hours, and you still got to eat and sleep and maybe talk to your kids once in a while?
Exactly. I'm laughing. Recently, I had a client who we spoke every week, and she was going to implement this morning routine. And the next week, she comes back and says to me, I failed. I could not implement this morning routine. I just couldn't. I tried, but I just never could quite do it. And so I said, well, let's sit down and talk about everything that's on that, how long it will take. Her morning routine was 5.5 hours. Well, unless she's getting up at like 2 a.m., no way was she getting it all done. It was meditating, exercise. I mean, and it just the list went on. And so I can laugh with your 27 hours because I see that a lot. How do you whittle that down? It all goes back to your values and your priorities. What is most important to you? I'm a big believer in delegating. Recently, a client went from a 6-day work week to 4. And it was through, not all of it is due to this, but a big portion of it was being able to delegate. He looked at his list, and I can remember very clearly. What value does this apply to? Look at the task and say, how does this get me closer to my goal? And then ask yourself, am I the only person that can do it? Because for entrepreneurs, the key to moving forward in your business is letting go of the things that someone else can do and doing the things that only you can do. Because if you hold on to everything, your growth is finite. But if you can let things go and just do the things you can do, then your 27 hours turns into a reasonable number.
That, I think, is a key point, because I think as entrepreneurs, we're all a little bit control freaks, which is why we became entrepreneurs in the first place. But we have to sort of fight that natural tendency. And I know when I look at my clients and people that I've worked with, the ones who are most successful are the ones who are able to give up some of that control. But it's still difficult. Like I know even for me, I've started giving up some of the technical stuff, even though I'm a bit of a nerd and I like it and I'm good at it. It's not something I should be doing, so I'm starting to outsource that. But it's still hard. So what are some tips for if you're able to identify, okay, these are things that maybe somebody else could do? How do you take that next step to delegate, to get someone else to do that for you?
Good question. Recently I read, I don't know, I read a lot. So somewhere I read, and so if the person's watching this who said this, I am so sorry that I can't quote you. But I read, after you've identified tasks that someone else could do, ask yourself, why are you still holding on? Because if you're still in that resisting phase where you figured it out, someone else can do it, go ahead and then go that next step and say, why am I still holding on to this? I've already identified this is not the best use of my time. Why am I still holding on? And many times when you can answer that question, you then can figure out whether or not to let it go. Sometimes that answer is, I'm holding on to this because it's fun. I love to do it. Sometimes that answer is, I'm holding on to it because I don't know of the person who I can trust yet to do it for me. But that every time you have an answer, it leads to you to what your next step is to be able to let go. And many times it's just finding the right resource.
Now, I know I hear a lot of times from people, and I know I've been guilty of this myself, is the number one reason why you don't pass something off is, I can't afford to hire somebody. So how do you respond to that for somebody?
I say that you probably, when you spend time doing things that only you can do, are going to increase your income. Because what is it that you're doing as an entrepreneur? You're marketing or selling yourself and your product. So when you can spend more time marketing and selling yourself and your product, your income will increase. So you have to start sliding a little bit out of time to be able to bridge that gap. So what I mean by that is, instead of hiring a full-time assistant, bring a virtual assistant in for have them for 3 hours a week, and then take that 3 hours and put it directly on income producing activities. Now you're making the money to pay for her or him, and then you can put a little more, and then you can put a little more on your end.
And presumably your hourly rate is going to be higher than the virtual assistant or whoever it is that you hire, so that 1 hour with the virtual assistant time, you're going to make more than that when you're doing revenue generating activities.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so you've got a 30-day challenge that you have. Tell us about that.
I love the 30-day challenge. It is absolutely my favorite product. So earlier we were talking about how do you pick your number one most important thing, and I told you that there's a piece of framework that I like, and it's AWE, awareness, work, and evaluation. And that awareness piece is figuring out what's important to you. Where do you want to be and where are you now? And then the work piece is bridging that gap. how do we get from where we are to where we want to be? And how do we do it as efficiently and effectively as possible? And then that E phase is evaluation. What works? What can we adjust so that it works even better next time? And then you just continually go through that. And it works for any goal achievement, projects that you're working on. If you can walk through those 3 steps, it's a well thought out process, and the framework can be loose or structured enough for each person. Some people feel stifled by a lot of structure, so you can pull back but go through those 3 stages. So what I developed to go with this is this idea, supplement this idea, is 30 days to success, an awe-inspired journal. So every day for 30 days, you go through those 3 stages of awe in whatever depth you want, and it relates to a goal. So you pick some, whether it's finishing a project type goal, or if it's a habit changing type goal. So maybe you want to update your website copy. So you say, okay, for 30 days, I am working on updating all my website copy. Or you can say, habit-wise, for 30 days, I am going to meditate and relax and put some time in my day to just be. You work on that for 30 days. So the journal piece is the written piece, the place that you can come back and really check your progress and celebrate the success. It also can provide extra structure for people who want to stay on a path. With that is the 30-day challenge, which is a video every day, usually 2-3 minutes, and then action steps that go along with the workbook. So what's nice about the videos is they're a prompt because they come in on your email in the morning. And so it reminds you that, oh yeah, that's right, I'm working towards a goal when you're at those beginning stages. It's also motivation towards the end when you're like, oh my gosh, it's day 20. No, because you know how all of a sudden it's not as fun as it was when you started. It's no longer that shiny object. So the journal is the concrete based part of it where you can write in it, and then the videos are more for those visual learners, auditory learners, and for people, I have clients who say, every morning I wake up to your face, 6 a.m. I was like, yay.
So what kind of results can somebody expect if they were to go through this 30-day challenge?
That is a really good question. Now, I don't know that I actually can answer it with a quantitative answer. What I can say first is your output will be directly proportional to your inputs, not the magic pill. But when you're focused on one thing, the results will follow because you're applying focus. One of a past challenger said, I didn't do the challenge every day. I did it about half the time, but that's 15 times I'm closer to where I would have been had I not done it at all. And then there's success stories, so I can give you some qualitative answers to that. I have had people who have written a book, not written a whole book in 30 days, but who had ideas and things out there and got a really good structure on it within the 30 days to where they're at a point where they can send it out. It's something that's been on their mind for ages. There's an insurance agent who went through the challenge who is having her best year ever, and she's been in the business for 20-some years. And she, her boss's boss called her and said, what's going on? And she said, well, I did this challenge, and because I focused on only one thing, business is booming. And there's all sorts. There's people who, I have a really good friend in Canada who now takes a half hour every day, no matter what, and drinks tea. And for some people, you'll be like, whatever, what kind of a challenge is, okay. But for her, that's huge because she would never take the time for herself during the day.
So how much time would, if I were going to start the challenge tomorrow, how much time do I need to set aside each day?
It depends on what your goal is. So take away time working on your goal for a second, and let's just look at the time to watch the video, complete some action steps, write down in the journal. We're talking probably 15 minutes. Videos, tops of videos, 4 minutes. And then to think through, process, write down, you're talking probably 15. And then however long you decide that you want to spend on your goal. Normally, I recommend at least 15 minutes, possibly longer, just depending upon what you're doing. So figure 15 minutes plus whatever your goal time is.
Okay, and so where can they find out about your challenge, your 30-day challenge?
On my website, which is systemsavvyconsulting.com. In the product section, it says 30-day journal, and that's right where they can invest in the 30-day journal and enter into the challenge.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes to the website, so people don't if they didn't frantically get it written down while you were watching, you could go and click through. That's easier. So, Lisa, before I let you go, is there one other piece of advice or something that you would suggest to somebody who is struggling with their time management and struggling to get things done, that just one thing that you would like them to take away?
My biggest takeaway is always take action. Whatever you heard today that seems like it's something that you could or want to do that. Take action today. So either it could be reach out, send me an email. Like you said, Andrew, you're going to put my contact info down below. I'm happy to answer an email and help you figure out where your obstacle is and possibly how to move through it. Or maybe it's join the challenge. Don't think, oh yeah, I want to do that later. Do it now. Maybe it's, oh my gosh, my best friend is so good at time management. I should call her. No, not should. Pick the phone up right now, call her, and ask her for her best tip. But whatever it is, take action. Pick one thing so that you are better off after listening to that talk than you were before you came in.
That is some great advice. So everybody, as soon as you hit this recording ends, go and do something. Take one piece of action. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to hearing about all these successful 30-day challenges.
Thank you. I look forward to sharing them. I get so energized every day when I jump on our Facebook. We have a closed Facebook group, and people are sharing what they've accomplished. I'm energized every day with it. So thank you for having me.
Well, that sounds amazing, and I want to thank everybody for joining us for another episode of the Baby Boomer Entrepreneur TV /podcast, and I'll see you all soon.